The last time I had the dream, I was walking down the school hallway. And that's when I started to notice that something's wrong. Everyone I cared about has been systematically replaced. And finally, I want to scream, and I'm like, why are they replacing every single character with someone who is diverse?
One major development going on now involves more to do with Rachel Zegler and her attitude towards South Park Studios and Paramount after learning about what they are planning for their upcoming special called the DEI Special.
South Park just transformed Disney's $250 million Snow White dream into a meme-loaded nightmare, leaving breakout star Rachel Zegler squarely in the crosshairs. Imagine the most trusted name in family entertainment unveiling a grand, big-budget remake of its first animated masterpiece, only to see the project spiral into a social media minefield where every interview, every leaked photo, and every sarcastic meme deepens the controversy. Disney's live-action Snow White was supposed to be a triumphant update of the 1937 classic, proof that the studio could blend nostalgia with modern values and still mint box office gold.
But the primary suffering is being sent in by my company to watch a children's movie as a single man, like 2 p.m. on a Thursday. That was the first part that was a little bit weird, but I was basically the only person in the theater.
Instead, a single casting announcement snowballed into a culture war free-for-all, and South Park's scathing parody poured rocket fuel on an already raging fire. From boardroom panic to legal whispers, from fandom fury to meme market frenzy, this is the full saga of how a billion-dollar dream slipped through Disney's fingers. Rachel Zegler had every hallmark of a breakout Disney princess. She carried a Golden Globe for West Side Story, possessed the kind of Broadway-polished vocals that could carry any Alan Menken ballad, and spoke fluently about representation in modern media. Disney's press release framed her hiring as a landmark moment for inclusivity.
It basically, this movie was like you took the original Snow White and just put everything through this filter of liberalism. It wasn't through a filter of Japanese anime, it was through a filter of liberalism.
A way to reflect 21st century diversity while honoring a story older than World War II. Internal projections banked on a global audience hungry for a refreshed fairy tale, especially in emerging markets where representation headlines well. Early test footage screened to executives showed Zegler belting a newly written anthem about self-determination against a lush CGI forest, and the room reportedly erupted in applause. Yet outside that room, the applause was mixed. Traditional Disney fans, those who rewatch the 1937 film every holiday, asked why a heroine named Snow White no longer had the pale skin referenced in both grim folklore and Walt Disney's original lyrics.
So with Snow White, let's go through this, right? There's no prince. Woman doesn't need a prince.
Oh, Lord.
Really? Okay, good luck back then.
Hollywood trades praised the boldness, but YouTube channels with millions of subscribers framed the move as another example of identity politics first, storytelling second. Even neutral observers felt a tremor. The decision was a high-wire act, and Disney had no safety net if balance failed. The backlash wasn't limited to race. Photos surfaced of the new 7 companions, a blend of CGI and motion capture actors standing in for dwarfs. Peter Dinklage blasted Disney for recycling what he saw as a dated depiction of little people stereotypes. Disability rights activists piled on, arguing the studio should cast actors with dwarfism instead of digital stand-ins.
It doesn't need a prince to save her, and not surrounded by 7 weird people. Oh, okay, just CGI fictional goblins, I guess.
The film's creative team suddenly faced fire from multiple fronts: fidelity purists, cultural critics, disability advocates, and diversity skeptics, all debating a movie still in production. In an age when every junket answer becomes a TikTok clip, Zegler's enthusiasm quickly mutated into headline fodder. She labeled the original prince basically a stalker, noting that sneaking into a garden to sing at a stranger's window is, by 2020's standards, creepy. She called the 1937 story outdated, a product of an era when women had fewer choices. She vowed her Snow White would crave leadership over love.
To go out and badmouth everybody and talk smack about, older movies in the same franchise, the canon story, I guess?
Yeah.
I don't know, dude. I feel like they would have had better control over that.
Each statement read in isolation, like a modern reassessment of fairy tale tropes. String them together, however, and they sounded like a wholesale rejection of a film many fans considered sacred. Reaction videos exploded. Conservative commentators used the clips to decry Hollywood's war on tradition. Progressive outlets cheered Zegler's honesty, but some quietly worried she had gone off script, inadvertently belittling a cornerstone of Disney's legacy. Disney's publicity division, already juggling Marvel misfires and Disney Plus churn, assigned a full-time social media manager to pre-approve every tweet, Instagram story, and TikTok comment Zegler posted.
Snow White is generally understood to be a very, very white person. And in this case, they decided, nope, no, that doesn't make any sense. So I don't think we're allowed to say that, right? I was referring to the movie as sand beige.
The actress complied, mostly, but the damage was done. Algorithms had latched onto the controversy, and the story now had a life of its own. Meanwhile, Zegler's personal feed carried posts supporting immigrant rights, criticizing then-President Trump, and retweeting Free Palestine messages. None were unusual for a politically active Gen Z celebrity, yet each gave partisan pundits fresh angles to attack. For viewers who just wanted a magical musical, the non-stop discourse felt exhausting. For political combatants, it was red meat. And for Disney executives, it was a logistical nightmare.
This girl took the money and then decided that she wanted to go out there and, you know what, I'm gonna take my stand. Well, you should have made that stand before you took the money to promote a film, because that's not in line with your job description.
Right.
Every new headline risked alienating another slice of their global audience. The internet's meme machinery roared to life. Content creators compiled supercuts of Zegler's most provocative sound bites, overlaying dramatic music or comedic laugh tracks. A side industry of anti-Disney merch sprang up on Etsy. Shirts reading Snow Woke, mugs showing a pale cartoon princess fading under a rainbow filter. Even parody posters mocking the CGI dwarfs as 7 algorithmic errors. Disney's legal department issued takedown notices, but for every design removed, 3 more appeared. All the while, production costs ballooned. Insiders whispered that elaborate forest sequences required extensive reshoots when early CGI tests looked too video game. A new empowerment anthem demanded a top-tier composer, live orchestra, and a second round of vocal recordings. COVID protocols added millions in testing, quarantine housing, and schedule delays. By the time the final budget leaked, north of $250 million, analysts questioned whether any fairy tale, no matter how iconic, could recoup that sum without global consensus. When the film premiered in select overseas markets to gauge audience response, ticket sales were soft.
I think they could have done all that woke shit. You want to cut woke? They could have done all that still. And as long as she had gone out and been like, well, we just have a different story. I like the old story, but we're doing a different one this time.
You're probably right.
The backlash would have been 10 times.
Yes. You're probably right.
Reviewers praised Zegler's voice, but criticized a script that felt lecturing rather than enchanting. Parents surveyed outside cinemas said the movie looked beautiful but lacked the simple charm their kids expected. Word of mouth dragged opening weekend forecast down to $45 million domestic, a catastrophic number against blockbuster expenses. Rival studios, sensing blood, rescheduled competing releases to cannibalize family audiences. Disney's once unassailable holiday slot suddenly looked fragile. Trey Parker and Matt Stone have built careers out of dissecting cultural flashpoints, and the Snow White drama was irresistible. In their DEI special, follow-up to The Panderverse, they introduced a cartoon Rachel Zegler who hijacked every scene, ripped pages from scripts, and lectured cardboard cutout executives on patriarchal oppression. The animated Rachel mocked crew members for perpetuating toxic nostalgia, forced villains to adopt inclusive language, and delivered monologues lifted almost verbatim from her real interviews. Viewers gasped. Satire had crossed into near documentary territory. Within hours of airing, clips topped Reddit's front page. A split-screen compilation showing real Zegler quotes beside South Park's parody rocketed past 10 million views overnight.
It is not racist to suggest that a character who is described in the original as skin white as snow, that is literally how the character is described in the original, that's a character description in the same way that, as you mentioned, in Moana.
Some fans howled with laughter, claiming the cartoon merely said what they'd been thinking. Others cringed, arguing the episode turned a young Latina actress into a punching bag for the internet's worst trolls. Either way, the damage was immediate. Disney's marketing narrative about a courageous reimagining collapsed under the weight of a viral gag that millions considered definitive. Inside Disney headquarters, crisis management teams mapped scenarios. The first directive, silence. Zegler's late-night talk show circuit, including a coveted Tonight Show appearance, was scrapped. Magazine covers shot months earlier disappeared from publication schedules. Press junkets pivoted to focus on co-star Gal Gadot, whose evil queen performance tested well in audience polls. The official explanation, scheduling conflicts, fooled no one. Industry insiders leaked that Disney feared a single, unscripted remark could reignite the controversy and wipe out any chance of recouping costs. Meanwhile, the broader company faced headwinds. Marvel sequels underperformed, raising questions about franchise fatigue. Lucasfilm struggled to lock down a Star Wars release date that didn't overlap with Marvel or Pixar.
Very few people wanted to see this. Even the little kids who like Disney movies, even they don't seem to be turning up in droves for the movie because the movie is really, really bad.
Disney Plus reported its first quarterly subscriber drop, blamed partly on price hikes, but also on content saturation. Bob Iger, freshly returned as CEO, reportedly referred to Snow White as a lightning rod we can't let strike twice. In internal meetings, executives debated whether to accelerate a slate of low-risk animated originals to offset potential losses. As the studio tightened its grip, Zegler's representatives scrutinized the fine print of her contract. Sources close to the negotiations claimed Disney had guaranteed robust promotional opportunities across network television, streaming specials, and theme park events. By canceling appearances, the studio risked violating those terms. Lawyers weighed filing a breach of contract suit, not necessarily to win damages, but to pressure Disney into restoring some public platform. The threat alone deepened the rift between star and studio. Simultaneously, rumors of on-set friction with Gal Gadot gained traction. Gadot, an Israeli celebrity who had voiced support for her nation's right to self-defense, allegedly clashed with Zegler's pro-Palestinian retweets.
I think this is their policies coming back to bite them. They went woke.
Yeah.
She went out and said stuff woke that was going to hurt the film. They couldn't come out and go against her because then you're going after somebody for saying what you say you believe.
Crew members reported chilly silence during rehearsals, body doubles standing in for shared scenes, and last-minute script tweaks to reduce direct interaction. Publicists for both actresses denied any feud, yet gossip sites fed the narrative, publishing anonymous crew quotes, describing a set divided by politics as much as creative vision. With marketing momentum shattered, Disney pushed the release to spring 2025. The extra time allowed for extensive reshoots aimed at toning down what early reviewers called heavy-handed messaging. Romantic subplots were partially reinstated after test audiences missed the classic love story. Visual effects artists reworked the dwarfs into more stylized woodland creatures, hoping to sidestep disability backlash. A new song, lighter, more whimsical, replaced the feminist power ballad in the third act. Each change cost millions, but executives calculated that a slightly safer film had a better chance at global acceptance. Merchandising partners, once eager to stock shelves with dolls and costumes, pressed pause. Retailers needed assurances that controversy wouldn't taint holiday sales. McDonald's postponed a Happy Meal tie-in. Lego quietly shelved a Snow White cottage set, redirecting bricks to a neutral Enchanted Forest theme. Even Disneyland's planned parade float, featuring Zegler's likeness, was replaced by a generic floral carriage until further notice. International distributors grew cautious. China, historically a crucial market for Disney blockbusters, had recently rejected films over politically sensitive content. Middle Eastern territories examined Zegler's social media activism and weighed potential censorship. European countries, grappling with their own culture war debates, wondered if local audiences would embrace or boycott the remake. Each region demanded customized marketing strategies, inflating budgets and stretching release windows. As the studio scrambled, the conversation around Snow White expanded beyond entertainment news into broader cultural commentary. Academics penned op-eds about the perils of reimagining beloved stories without audience buy-in. Media studies podcasts dissected the feedback loop, where corporate messaging collides with meme culture. Influencers on both sides monetized the drama. Anti-woke channels sold Save the Classics merch. Progressive creators hosted live streams about systemic bias in fairy tales. South Park's writers, sensing ongoing demand, hinted at a second parody, this time lampooning Disney executives themselves. Fans speculated about potential cameos, a CGI Bob Iger chasing spreadsheets, a musical number featuring Mickey Mouse lamenting brand dilution. The prospect kept the controversy alive, ensuring Snow White remained trending fodder long after most marketing campaigns would fade. Investors tracked Disney's stock price, noting every uptick when positive news, like a successful Pixar release, offset declines tied to Snow White headlines. Financial analysts debated whether brand erosion or short-term noise drove the volatility. One bank downgraded Disney's rating, citing heightened reputation risk in politically polarized markets. In response, the studio accelerated initiatives seen as safe bets. Nostalgia-driven theme park expansions, non-controversial live-action adaptations, like The Sword in the Stone, and family-friendly Disney Plus originals set in fantasy worlds free of modern allegory. As 2025 approaches, curiosity simmers. Some audiences, angered by perceived wokeness, vow to skip opening weekend. Others, sympathetic to Zegler's stance on representation, promise to buy tickets in solidarity. Many more hover in the middle, drawn by spectacle yet wary of ideological sermons. Disney's marketing gamble hinges on winning that middle. Trailers emphasize sweeping visuals, lush orchestration, and the universal theme of believing in oneself. Posters highlight Gadot's magnetic evil queen. Hoping star power bridges divides. Zegler, contractually obligated to promote the film, will likely re-enter the spotlight, though under stricter talking point guidelines. Media coaches rehearse responses to potential landmine questions about race, politics, and satire. Disney's corporate comms team drafts contingency statements in case South Park drops another bombshell days before release. Security protocols for the premiere tighten, anticipating protesters from both ends of the political spectrum. Disney's Snow White saga has evolved into a modern cautionary tale, illustrating how swiftly a studio can lose control of its narrative in the digital age. A single casting decision intended to showcase inclusivity collided with entrenched nostalgia, partisan punditry, and the merciless humor of South Park. Each reaction fed the next, turning ordinary marketing beats into flashpoints in an ongoing culture war. Whether the 2025 release will rewrite the ending, transforming a troubled production into a redemption story, or cement its place as a costly misstep remains uncertain. Yet the episode leaves an indelible lesson. In a world where every soundbite can be meme-ified, every rumor can become a headline, and every satire can feel indistinguishable from reality, even the most powerful entertainment empire must tread carefully, or risk watching its fairy tale dreams crack like glass slippers on the unforgiving pavement of public opinion.